Gang. All right, my dude, we are live. Hey, man.
Oh yeah,
Sorry about the little technical difficulty on the front end there, but dude, thank you for dealing with me on that, man. Good evening, bro. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Good evening. How are you?
I'm good, man. I've been excited for this for a while, dude. I know, like we were saying before we jumped on, it's been like it's been a long time. Right? So then I guess at least 4 years since we like saw each other and got to like exchange some words a little bit, man. But I think it's been like over 10 years since we were like in the fold of like, hanging out and stuff like that, man. So I'm excited to catch up. I'm sure there's a lot going on, a lot of developments in your life and mine too. So I'm
Yeah,
excited, man.
absolutely.
But yeah, other than that, man, how are things going, man? On your end, I see you're back in the Chicagoland area for a minute now.
Yeah, yeah, back in Chicago.
Yeah,
I spent a couple 2.5 years living in San Francisco. That was like a pretty dope experience.
yeah.
But even in San Francisco, I was like working remote, so I came to a point where I was like, why am I here?
Okay.
Uh, San Francisco is pretty expensive, and like I don't know, I travel a lot, and so
Yeah,
came to a point where I was like, like I'm going east a lot, so like New York and Chicago and DC and other places.
yeah,
And I was like, I could just live in Chicago, like that would be so much easier. Uh, so I pulled the trigger and moved back last year.
yeah. Absolutely, man. No, I definitely want to hear a lot more about that because I mean, I always commend people who venture out of like their home territory, dude. It takes a lot of guts, dude. It takes a lot of confidence. It's risky, right? You don't know exactly what you're getting into out there. So definitely want to hear a little bit more about that. But before we jump into like some of those deep dive details, man. So let's take it back. Let's take it back maybe like 10 years back, right? Like let's say like
Yeah.
2015, dude, right?
All right.
So t tell me where you were at right around 2015, early 2015, if you remember. Where were you at? Where was your mind at? Like what were you doing?
Yeah. Early 2015, I would have been 18 years old.
Okay.
So I was like a freshman in college. I had like a roommate. I was at DePaul University.
Yeah.
I don't know, like the world's your oyster at that point, right? Like you have so many different avenues to explore. And yeah, I was just kind of like, I don't know, fucking around for lack of a better term.
Yeah, yeah, for
But I
sure,
was
bro.
like, you're like a kid, right? Like you don't know any better. And so that's what you do.
Yeah,
Um,
totally, man. I went to DePaul as well, and dude, full transparency, I did not know you went to DePaul, dude. So I'm a bummy boy for that, dude. I should have known that at least. But
yeah,
what'd you go there for?
I was a finance major.
Hmm. Nice, bro. Nice, bro. So like, did you live in the dorms?
Yeah, so I lived in a university hall. So like that
Okay.
dorm right on the quad, if you
Okay.
remember.
Yeah, yeah. Belden Racine, boy.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, that's right, dude. Yeah, U-Haul's where I remember I had my orientation at U-Haul.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and I was like, this is the spot to be at, actually. It seems like, there's a good social component to it. It was a little bit, I guess, how do I put it? It was a little too bustling for me. I guess when I was coming into college, I thought like, oh, dude, I can't be in like the busy dorm over there. But that seemed like a fun dorm, was it?
yeah. It was a fun dorm, but I like made the mistake of like, I don't know if this is the mistake or not, right? Because like, I don't think there are like actual mistakes in life, but just like, hindsight's 2020. But anyway, I like kind of invested a lot of like time and energy into like being like really good friends with my roommate.
Yeah.
I didn't really like socialize with people in my dorm because it was just like a small group of us that used to hang out all the time. It's kind of unfortunate now because I don't talk to any of them.
Yeah, I feel you on that, dude. It'd be like that sometimes,
Uh,
right?
but it'd be like that, right? That's life.
Yeah, man. That's great, dude. So you lived at U-Haul. Did you move out after freshman year? Did you catch a
Yes.
spot? Yeah.
Yeah. So that group of boys I was telling you about, we got a spot up in like Buena Park,
Okay.
Wrigleyville area.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
off the Sheridan Red Line. Um, we were there for a year. We thought we got like a sick deal on our apartment. I like sniped it on Craigslist. It was a good rate. It was like it was like newly renovated too. So they had like nice appliances and nice fixtures and stuff like that. But the downsides were that because it was like brand new, our like landlord did such a shitty job of remodeling it.
Okay.
So like I had floors in my bedroom that were like tilted. So I would like roll my chair up to my desk and then I would roll backwards. There's that. he didn't do like a good job of like when you like supposed to like seal like entrances and stuff like that
Yeah, yeah,
from
yeah.
like the outside, so like you don't get anything weird coming into your house. We had like a rat come into our
Oh,
house,
fuck that, dude. Fuck that.
which like sucked, and my roommates had to like kill the thing.
Dude, rats are
Um,
different level, dude. Like a mouse is one thing, which is still fucky, but like you get a rat
yeah,
in there, dude. Nah.
yeah, it was like some Lord of the Fly shit. They sent me a picture of it. I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, that's tough. Um, and so like just like stuff like that, like bad landlord, kind of objectively like crappy apartment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so, two of the guys moved out, and then me and one of the other guys, we got a place in Lakeview in 2016.
Nice.
And that was cool for a year. It was just like kind of a super basic apartment. Um, and then I moved in with my brother, Snay,
Oh,
for my
yeah.
senior year of college because we were both like wanting to be in the city at the same time. So it worked out really well.
Yeah.
And then I graduated.
Sick, dude. I mean, so you get to live in a couple of different spots, right? That's kind
Yeah.
of nice, man. I mean, it's funny how in Wrigleyville and I mean just the surrounding areas, like the landlords can get away with all types of shit, right? Because people will live there no matter what, right? Because it's a poppin' area, especially after 2016 when the Cubs won, dude. Like everyone
Oh
was
yeah.
trying to be up in there, dude. But even when I lived in Wrigley, I lived on Addison and Fremont, so right by the police station in Wrigley.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and our place was a supreme shithole, dude. Like it was just one bath, three bedrooms, dude. Like nothing worked in there, but we lived there for like 3 years, dude. Just roughing it out because that was the spot to be at, man. Like the Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup when I was living there, and then right at the tail end is when the Cubs won the World Series when I moved out too. So it was nice to be there during that time, but I would never ever do that shit again, bro.
You like say that, but then you like, I think people inherently have more resiliency than they give themselves credit for.
True,
Like, I don't
true.
know if I told you this, but after college, I won something called a Fulbright scholarship. So I
Okay.
lived in Mongolia for a year.
Damn. Some Genghis
And
Khan
like
shit,
you,
huh?
huh?
Some Genghis Khan stuff out there,
Yeah,
bro.
some Genghis Khan
Yeah,
shit.
yeah,
And like that was like objectively worse than living in Chicago.
yeah,
But like you do it, right? Like in the moment, like nothing matters. You
The body adjusts, right? Like,
yeah,
you got to switch over to that normal, dude. Survival mode flips on. Yeah, man. What was your
yeah.
what was your place like out there, dude?
I was in a student dormitory. So when you get there, you're supported by a university. And so the university that I was at put me up in like the student dormitory. Some of my other peers had like apartments and other kind of living arrangements. But I was in the student dorms. They like make customize the dorm for me. I had my own bathroom and stuff like that. It was fine, but you could definitely tell they cut like a lot of corners. Like I remember I was looking at like the gap where like they affixed my window to the wall, and there was like a bunch of like cracks and shit. And I was like, is this shit gonna fall out in the middle of the night?
Damn,
Um,
dude.
or like on my last few weeks there in the summer, it was raining pretty hard, and they were like fixing the roof up top, and like they still hadn't put like the new roof down, so I had a bunch of like water leaking into my
Oh,
bathroom. And I was
dude.
like, I'm out in a week. Like this ain't that bad.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Uh,
We're about to be out of here. Yeah.
I'm about to be out of here. Yeah. I don't know, like shit like that. It's like kind of the common. My power would go out a lot. It's like, yeah,
Yeah,
you kind of
yeah.
just manage.
Dude,
Cold
and
water.
that's one of the things, dude, is like I don't know if you guys, that storm that rolled through here like a couple weeks back. I don't know if
Yeah,
you were
yeah.
down, dude. I lost power for like 16 hours
Oh,
and
damn.
just sitting there in the dark, like no power, like no Wi-Fi, just sitting there like, dude, what do I do right now? You know what I mean? Like it's those moments that they humble you, bro. Like they give you mad gratitude for just the basic necessities, right? Like you were saying, hot water, food, lights, shit like that. Like
Yeah,
'cause people probably live in that normal in other countries, like day to day, right? Like not knowing when their power's going to go out, not knowing when they can get clean water, fresh food, all that stuff is just to your point, man. It builds character and your body adjusts to it. I bet they don't think too much of it, right?
yeah, absolutely. Right. It's definitely like a gives you a perspective of like shit. Like I have all this in America, and objectively, like it's a nice place to live. Like right where we are right now.
Yeah.
But like yeah, like probably I would say like three quarters of the rest of the world lives in some form like that, right? Where you don't have power or running water or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, with this whole Mongolia thing, was it just the scholarship that took you out there, or were you like itching to get out to Mongolia like all the while?
So I like you do like an application pro. It's kind of like Peace Corps. You do like an application process.
Yeah,
You pick a country. I picked Mongolia. I thought it was kind of interesting as a
yeah,
place, for a few reasons. Like one, like the last thing you heard about it is like Genghis Khan,
yeah.
and like that's it, right? But it's a pretty integral part of the region just because it's sandwiched between Russia and China.
Hmm.
But obviously, like, Western countries don't like countries interacting with both Western, like, Russia and China. So it's like a strategic country from like a geography and from a diplomacy standpoint. Um, it was like I was going to be teaching at a high school, like a college, which I thought was kind of interesting. I wanted older age children or older age kids to work with.
Yeah, yeah,
And I was going to be like in a capital city, right? Like in a capital, even in like a developing country, you're still gonna have like basic things, right? Like I went to the movies, and they had restaurants and bars and things like
yeah,
that, so you can kind of get your social itch scratched.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Definitely, man.
have like you can have some basic creature comforts.
Yeah, did like so are you huge on like Genghis Khan history and stuff like that? Or is that was like something that took you there, or what was the other reasons? I mean, I just finished up a book on Genghis Khan, and like, dude, that I think the West has that his whole perception fucked. Like, he was much different according to that book than like the way I was taught growing up. Like he didn't seem like a big savage douchebag like orc, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
He was a titan, right, for sure, but he was a smart guy. I would say he's probably what I would say a leader to model oneself after based on his temperament, his desire to bring people together, keep education and religion alive and not like, oppress.
absolutely. And I think it's funny that you say that because I was in, my dad was trying to explain like where I was in the world. And so he was talking to this uncle, and he goes, "Oh, do you remember like that guy that killed all those people?" He's like, "That's where Shail is."
That's where he's at, dude. Yeah.
Um, and I think uh, the West does have is like the perception of it is a little fucked, but like I think there's also truth behind it, right? Or else like this notion wouldn't exist,
Sure.
right? Like Genghis Khan can be like a great leader and an impeccable diplomat and this objective ruler, but he can also like be like this kind of barbaric individual who kills anyone that gets in his way, right? Like
Yeah.
they're not mutually exclusive things, right? They're you can be two of the same people,
Yeah.
two halves of the same person. And so yeah, like he was a great ruler to his people, um, and he was a great ruler. He was a just ruler. He was he had this ability to kind of see people from both perspectives, from even if you were affluent or if you were middle class or subservient class. You kind of thrived in his ecosystem and in his environment. And I think after he passed away, that's kind of why you saw the Mongolian Empire deteriorate as fast as it did.
Right.
Kind of ironically, right? Mongolia is like this, for all intents and purposes, like this very developing country. But at its height, it was like this immense power. And it just goes to show you, right, the strength of his leadership, in that period of time.
Oh, dude, 100%. And it's it's beautiful melancholy, I would say, because just coming from the way that he came up, like his mom was captured, and he kind of rose through the ranks and was like kind of vowing that like, hey, this won't happen under my watch like ever again, right? And he put together this conglomerate just for his descendants to kind of be spoiled and douchey about it, right? And just kind of ruin
Yeah,
the empire, right? I mean, I know Kublai got he wove his way into like the Chinese Empire, which they found really tough. He couldn't crack that code, but their whole family was kind of destroyed by their own family, and
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
interesting to see that the fact that it's just interesting to see the fact that his family was destroyed only for after he died a couple of hundred years later for the family just to be destroyed again, right? Which is
Yeah,
something to learn. And I've been reading a lot of books on like Napoleon and Mehmet and the other like conquerors of like like after Genghis Khan, right? And what I do like about the Mongolian Empire is they didn't claim to be something that they weren't. You know, they knew that they were warriors, right? They were rooted in their warrior culture, so that never left them. But they included other folks, whereas like someone like Napoleon was like, in my opinion, a really smart guy, but just like the epitome of a douchebag. Just so ego inflated,
Didn't
just
know when to quit.
didn't know when to quit, willing to sacrifice his whole entire army, like just as they were dispensable, right? And so I felt as if Genghis Khan didn't really spill blood unless he really had to. So I personally feel like, and also I think he domino affected like the whole entire Renaissance in Europe too. With like printing press, Silk Road, all
Yeah,
these different things, right? And so, but they ended up like needing someone to like scapegoat, and they just like demonized them. And
yeah.
we weren't there, so we don't know the actual history that actually happened, but I do really enjoy Mongolian history a lot, man. I find it very motivational.
It's funny that you say that about how, it was like the kind of the family undid a lot of their own lineage because if you look through like history, that's like a very common trope.
Yeah.
Families bicker amongst themselves after like this great leader, dies and he doesn't have like a installed succession plan, or if he does have an installed succession plan, people contest it from every which way. Um, and you take these like great big empires, and they're reduced to like almost nothing. Call it in 100 years or 200 years, like they don't survive the test of time. Um, and even today, right? Like fucking Succession, the TV show, it's literally like that, right? They're trying to figure out who takes over the guy's empire. They like all bicker amongst themselves and they shoot themselves in the foot. Um, yeah, Mongolian history is very fascinating because, and especially like what's the word I'm looking for? Like connected to us as Indian people as well, because Mughals were descendants of Mongolians, right? That's where the
Yep.
term Mughal comes from. It's Mongol.
Yep.
And so a lot of our own like interpersonal identity and culture as Indian people is like from Mongolia. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of cool. Like Amr is a very common Mongolian name. Fun fact.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, yeah. Like it was so crazy. Like I met so many like Indian people that had settled and married Mongolian women, and all their kids would be named like Amr.
Oh, nice, dude. All right.
Yeah,
I gotta get over there, dude. Find my people out there, dude.
there you go. Just
That's
shout
awesome.
Amr in like a restaurant.
Just
You'll see a few heads turn.
hell yeah, just in the airport, dude. Just shout it out. That's awesome, man. What do you feel like outside of that? Like, what were some like what were some lessons learned from your time in Mongolia?
Yeah, I think like one of the biggest one was like just have a personal sense of gratitude,
Yeah.
right? Because you take a lot of things for granted. Like I said, power and stable power at that, running water, access to medications, even Wi-Fi, like like you take for granted like the creature comforts that you have in America, but
Yeah.
it's almost like a privilege to have them here because, again, 75% of the world probably doesn't have half of what we have right now. Something like that. But like the one thing that really stood out to me is I got off the plane and I was trying to figure out like what the language was and the cultures and the customs of the city I was in and while I was there. And it like dawned on me like, holy shit, like my parents had to do this in the 80s. Like that's
Right.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because they came over from India, they came over from fucking Gujarat. They don't speak English that well, but they had to make a life. And this is in the 80s and 70s, right? Where like there was no internet. There was, telephone was kind of access was sparse.
Yeah.
Um, right? Like they could call into India maybe like once a month or, whatever. They didn't really have money. Versus me in Mongolia, like a smartphone and I had
Yeah.
a bank account, I had a Visa credit card, like I could do shit.
Yeah.
So it gave me like a renowned perspective and appreciation for the struggles that they went through, right? To like, raise me and my brother in America. And I think that was like my biggest takeaway,
Nice.
because it's hard as shit,
Yeah.
right? To come to a country where you don't speak the language and you don't know the culture and the customs and to build a life for yourself, to build a successful life for yourself at that, right? It's hard. It's very fucking difficult.
Yeah, man. And I think that's amazing. I think that's like probably you and I could align really well on that front. I find in my travels too, and it is that 100%. It's maybe not exactly like the parents thing, but just a sense of gratitude, right? It's you go to different places and you're one, I feel grateful for the experience of being able to go to that country, right? But then you
Yeah,
experience simplicity, like almost in its finest form, right? People who just enjoy getting up in the morning, right? Being able to take a walk, being able to breathe in clean air, have clean water, right? And then you come back and you're like, oh, dude, like I have to meet this deadline from this fucking Asana queue that I have, right? And you're just like,
yeah,
this is my problem, and it's no less intense of a problem, but you're like, I have a little bit more patience for that problem in my life because I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm grateful for this problem. I'm grateful that someone is on my ass to get this task completed in my Slack or my Asana queue because there are many other problems I could have in this world, right? I might not be able to have basic human needs, right? I might not be able
yeah.
to know where my next meal is coming from. And I'm sitting here bitching about like getting up when I work from home to go log on to my computer, right? Um, but going back to your parents, do you let them know that in any way? Like, did you come back and kind of have like a reflective moment with them on that, or a moment of gratitude with them?
I don't think I had a reflective moment, but I do remember calling them and being like, "Holy shit, this is hard."
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, but they were like, "Well, you signed up for it. Like, fuck, you're on your own now. Like, what are we gonna do?"
There you go, dude. There you go. There's some love
Uh,
there. Yeah,
yeah,
that's nice. Um, I feel you on that, man. I mean, I recently actually also my one of my uncles, um, he gave me like a timeline of my paternal grandfather's like life based on an
yeah,
interview he had with him, right? And I never really knew my grandfather super well, and then I read this kind of like chronological timeline, and I was like, dude, I was sitting at the gym, like it was pretty much like that day you called me, and
yeah.
like when I reached out to you about it, when you reached out to me about the podcast. So I was reading this thing, and then I was just sitting here like, oh my God. So, this guy was born in like 1909, right? In some random village in India, and it was like right when the bubonic plague hit. So his dad died early, like when he was like 4. His mom died of the plague when he was like 11. He like bounced
Jeez.
around, ended up in Africa, kind of like doing like some side business where he was selling candies to like sailors. And I was just sitting here like, man, bro, I wouldn't be sitting here on this fucking bike right now, like at my gym, at my
Yeah,
privileged ass gym, like going to yoga in 15 minutes if like he didn't have to deal with that burden, right? And although like, I'm sure he didn't do it all for me specifically, there's some gratitude in that moment, right? That you inevitably have to express just because like I am living a good life, man. I'm happy with my life, and that's all because of people who came before me and kind of carved the path unknowingly or knowingly, right?
yeah. That's like one thing I do wonder, right? Um, like I do wonder, like similar to you, I do wonder a lot about like my ancestry, and I think one of the things that you and I both miss out on is that, a lot of our ancestors are from another country that's thousands of miles away.
Right.
And so like I don't know, the ancestry kind of dies when our families immigrated, right? Like we don't know so much about I mean, we know to the extent, we had that connection with our grandparents, they might have been in America, right?
Mhm.
But like my grandfather died early as well when I was a little kid. So I didn't get to really know him. But I would hear like anecdotes here and there, like, oh, like he studied in England for a few years. Like when here's a photo of him on the steamship that he took from Bombay to London
Yeah, yeah.
in the 1950s. And so you hear like a lot of these small anecdotes like that. Um, and you're like, man, like I would love to know like what his grandfather was like and what life was like in the 1800s. Um, and like shit like that, right? Or like what my dad's grandparents were like. Um, yeah, I think it's one of those things too. Like you definitely do have a sense of gratitude because like if you didn't do any of those things, right? Like I wouldn't be in this like apartment in River North.
Yeah, exactly, man.
It's like it's very much like a butterfly effect. Like the one activities they did, or like the things they did, 100 years ago probably like have impacted my life in such. It probably was like small back then, but it's been so meaningful now, and it will continue to be meaningful as I grow older.
dude. Yeah, like ripple effects that like echo
Ripple
through
effect.
generations, right? It's trippy, dude, just to like sit there and think about it. And if you go too far down a path, it's almost like I wouldn't say it's unsettling, right, in a negative way, but it gives me a little bit of it gives me it's the nerves, dude, to think about like 15 generations back, right? Like what was this person doing? Like where were they at, right? What was their mental state like? Where were they struggling? Where were they excelling? Things of that sort. And I don't know, just the human experience to me is like it always continues to humble me, bro. And I continue to learn and be a student. But anywho, jumping back to your story, man. So you spend a year in Mongolia, right? You come back. What
Come
happens when
back.
what happens when you get back?
Came back. Yeah, I got a job. But then I came back like August 2019.
Okay.
I was unemployed for like a couple months. Got a job December 2019.
Oh, nice.
So I was doing that for a couple months. I was living at home in Naperville with my parents, just commuting. Um, March 2020, COVID hits, the world shuts down. From March 2020 to like March 2020 through the end of the year, I was kind of doing this job. I didn't really like it. So that summer of 2020, I started interviewing for other roles, and I got this job in California. The caveat was that at some point, whenever COVID ends, I would have to move to San Francisco. But they were like totally cool with me living in Naperville in the meantime.
Yeah.
So 2021 comes, there's like, well, vaccines still aren't out, they're not rolled out yet. You can still live in Chicago. Summer 2021, they're like, all right, maybe start thinking a little bit. I think there's going to be some line of sight to this thing. People are getting more vaccinated, and the number of cases is coming down. All right, cool. Um, 2021, like fall, I have a friend ping me. He was like, hey, like I also a work friend. He's like, hey, I also need to relocate to San Francisco. You know, when would you look to move? And I was like, well, like probably like January 2022, I
Yeah.
think would be a good idea. He's like, yeah, that timeline works for me. So yeah, him and I got a place in San Francisco, and we moved out there. And um, 2022 comes around, moved to San Francisco. It's like I never, I like to think Mongolia was like such like a different experience, and it's such a unique experience um, because it was like a developing country,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like San Francisco's not like that. It's like fucking US. So it was like a different way to like make friends and approach people and things like that. It was something I thought I was like good at, but it's something I had to learn myself to live in like an actually new city.
Yeah. 100%, dude. I mean, I San Francisco is a place unlike any other, dude. It has a lot to offer. It's a big melting pot of cultures. You know what I'm saying? It's all types. It's a conglomerate of hodgepodge, right? And I think there's in a place like that, it's from folks I've heard that have lived in San Francisco and moved out of it, right? There's so much opportunity. Tech is crazy, startups, all the opportunity is there. But in a place sometimes when there's so much diversity, it might even be hard to connect. And this I'm not saying this is for you, but there might be paralysis by analysis there. I had some friends that they never could really put their feet down in San Francisco. They couldn't really find a pocket of folks to connect with, right? And over time that can feel isolating. That can feel as if you don't have folks there. I'm not saying that's your case, right? But I've heard, cities like that, even Chicago. Chicago can spit somebody out really fast because
Yeah,
hard knock city, people are in the throes of their daily life. And it's cold for fucking 9 months out of the year here, right? So it's hard to meet people at times. And I've known people that have moved to Chicago and then bummed out of it after a few months because it's kind of tough, man. But what was your experience like over there?
I think it was a lot of the same, right? Like I think anywhere you go, regardless of the location itself, I think it's human nature to want to see community, right? Because it's very instinctive,
Yeah,
right? Like even going back to like hunter gatherer days, they had communities. It's like a very innate thing to want for yourself.
right.
And so I think trying to form community in a place like San Francisco was a little bit more challenging because in a place like San Francisco, they really prioritize like outdoor activities and they're very health and fitness focused versus someone like myself wasn't necessarily like that when I got there.
Hmm.
So trying to figure out, people to hang out with or, things to do and trying to figure out your own community. I also didn't know anyone when I moved there.
Right.
So you're trying to like figure out like who to make friends with, like
Yeah.
what do you do to like get your social itch scratched? And so, it is like isolating in that sense, trying to like build a community from scratch. Um, and I think that's partly the reason why I decided to leave, right? Like you, I fucking had like I have a community in Chicago.
Yeah.
Um, and it was like at a certain point, you're like, dude, I have this like there, like I have like the reasons for me staying here are dwindling day by day. Like it at a certain point, it just like I was like, fuck it, like it makes sense to move back. I can work fully remote. I had signed up for my job, and there was no other reason. Like my lease was ending, so I was like, all right, at the end of my lease, I'm out.
Right. Right. Exactly, dude. You still hang out with the homies like from back in the day, like like Primo and Devon and all those guys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dude, me and Primal and Varun all live like on Kinsey in River North,
No, sick.
like literally like blocks apart from each other.
That's awesome. It's still a squad, still
Those
right?
squad.
That's awesome, man. I love to hear that, bro. That makes me happy, dude. I know you guys were like OG homies from day one, dude. So I'm happy to see, it's all you guys are still friends and close, dude. Tell them I said what's up the next time you
Yeah,
come
yeah,
out
for
Denver.
sure.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, it's like particularly exciting for me because this is like the first time I'll actually live in the same city as them.
Yeah,
Because like Pramil and Varun went to college in St. Louis,
right.
went to med school in St. Louis. Then after med school, those guys, one went to Milwaukee for residency, the other guy went to Florida for residency. So this is the first time like everyone's been in the same location probably since we were little kids.
Yeah, dude. I hope you guys are enjoying it, man. Summertime, dude, kicking it. I hope you guys are having a good time, dude. You guys been going out around like Chicago or just spending time together?
Yeah, yeah, we try to see each other like maybe like once a week or once every couple weeks,
Hell
like
yeah, dude.
that.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, like life happens. So it's kind of hard to like get everyone in the same spot. But we try to make it a point to at least chit chat or kick it for like an hour, go on a walk,
Yeah, fuck yeah.
something like low effort, but just to be in each other's company.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. That is beautiful. I mean, on that note, dude, on that note, not, whatever you're comfortable sharing with, man, but what's your recent relationship with religion, dude? Are you still like heavy in the throes of it, or have you developed a new relationship with it?
I think I very much developed a new relationship with it,
Yeah.
and here's like my rationale, right? Like I think for me personally, you and I grew up in the very same like religious environment. I think like exactly the same, right? I
Yeah,
think it
yeah,
would
yeah.
be a lie to say anything otherwise. Right? We both went to Swadhyaya. We both, went through the motions, and we learned a lot of scripture and a lot of culture. And I actually really like the culture stuff that we learned as kids
Yeah,
because so much of the Indian identity is culture driven, right?
100%.
So like learning what all the festivals are and the meanings and the significance behind them. Obviously, there are a lot of them are intertwined with religion, but I think that's okay,
Yeah,
right? Because it's still like, you still have that sense of like, oh, like this is what Diwali means, or this is why we celebrate Holi. This is why we do Garba and Ras or Navratri. I think stuff like that is fantastic.
I
But
agree.
for someone like myself, I lived in Mongolia, very much a developing country, and you kind of look around and you see humanity at its like kind of worst, right? You see people struggling, and you see people with medical issues that don't have access to medication, and you see the like the worst of the worst,
Yeah,
right? You see like poverty at its like a very extreme form, and it's like one thing to like go to India and see it for like a couple of weeks or something like that, but it's another thing to like live amongst it.
yeah,
And you kind of think about that, and you think, if there's like a higher power, what's that involvement in all of this, right?
yep, yep.
I don't know. Do you like, what's your take on religion? I'm curious because, you and I have lived such different lives, but at the same time, I think, we both have very similar religious upbringings. And so I'm curious to see like how your take on religion has evolved, or if it's, still static, or, what that's like.
Yeah, yeah, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate your perspective on things. And I think to your point, right? Like traveling will definitely shift your perspective on not only your daily thought, but also your broader spiritual thoughts as well. So I resonate with that 100%. I think my relationship with religion has broadened significantly. So over the past, I would say, yeah, over the past like 10 or so years, I spent time trying to understand all religion, like not just my own. And I would even consider myself, I wouldn't even consider myself Hindu at this point anymore, like full transparency.
Yeah,
So I do like reading about religion. Um, and I think each religion has its own personality, right? But as you look into history, right, the way I've been like reading history, what it seems like is like we've gotten a little bit away from spirituality in its raw form, right? We've begun to put a lot of structure around religion, right? Like, well, whether it's statues or reciting things or performing ritualistic, ceremonies, right? Things of that sort. It seems to me that we've gotten away from what I feel spirituality is, feelings and thoughts and vibrations and, just nature and things of that sort, right? Um, and I think, like going back to Genghis Khan, right? Like his spirituality on the steppe was all about wind and the sky and the earth, right? And
yeah,
so to me that seems I can get behind that, right? But then when we talk about did Ram pull out a thunderbolt from his holster and fire it across the world? I don't know if that happened or not. I haven't seen one motherfucker around me do that. Right? You know what I'm saying? So that I'm joking, right? But like I just haven't seen that. Okay. And so there's some semantical items that kind of put me off about religion.
yeah,
But hold on 1 second, bro. We're about to run out of time here. Do you want to just hop out and hop back in, and then I can finish this conversation?
yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, yeah. We'll hop, and then we can wrap it up in like 20-ish minutes because we already got like 40 on here, so I won't
Yeah.
take too much of your time. All right, brother. Just jump back in. All right.
All right.
Yep. Go ahead and record again. Awesome. Cool. Yeah. So basically, what I was saying in so many words, right, is that one thing. So just jumping all over the place. I'm not a big fan of obedience when it comes to religion, right? When it comes to you can only succeed if you are in this environment. That to me doesn't apply because there's so many different environments we get ourselves into. So I need a good framework that's going to help me operate in any situation that I find myself in, right? And so I find that a lot with Buddhism, right? Buddhism is not obviously they have the whole Buddha himself, right? But Siddhartha Gautama was himself was a human being,
Yeah,
um, and he experienced his own trials and tribulations, things that a human being would go through, right? You see, he grew up rich. He denounced all of that. He went to the forest and he realized, hey, I can't just remove myself from society. I have to find the right framework to live in society, but not be egotistic, not be entitled, not be just condescending, things of that sort, right? So he found what his middle way, right? His balance in life. And so these are the items that I like to move forward with, things that I can apply to my day to day, right? But religion has that, right? Christianity, be respectful to your neighbor, right? Things of that sort. I believe in that. Hinduism is don't have expectations for other people or anything really. I believe in that. You know what I'm saying? So I personally have let go like my tie to identify with a certain religion, but I like to take frameworks, principles, and things that I can apply in my day to day life that allow me to live a happy life. Because anything beyond this, I actually don't really know is real. But I know that's what faith is, right? Like having that faith. But I guess I say I don't have that faith because I haven't seen it. I need tangibility from the things I'm going to act upon and things of that sort. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of my relationship with religion right now. I feel knowledgeable on religion. I feel like I can speak conversationally about it. And I respect all religion because people need things to believe in. But sometimes what I will say is people believe in something and they hold on to it because it's security, right? And I believe that principles that you live your life by should be weather tested in all scenarios. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. I get you.
That's where I'm at with it.
So I want to like follow up on this because I think what
Absolutely.
you had some like really interesting points. Um, I remember when you and I were in Sunday school, right? I won't name drop orgs or anything like that. I'm not that bogus. I know there's
Yeah.
people listening. But I remember we had this lecture, and uh, one of the lectures that was going over like a dialogue, where the guy got asked a question like, "Oh, like what do I think about this?" And he's like, "You shouldn't be thinking about the present. You should be thinking about like what kind of the future, right? You should be thinking about instead of like thinking about this, you should be thinking about like, oh, like what kind of husband will you be? What kind of father you will be? What kind of you know employee or whatever, right? Like it's so forward thinking, and I think there's nothing wrong with that, right? But I think in this day, and what the kind of aversion I had was that it's almost too forward thinking, right? Like there's you need to have like a thought about your present, right? You need to be mindful about the environment that you are currently in, and you need to think about these things to be the best version of yourself. And I think that's where a lot of my, um, uh, 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 that's where a lot of like my inner conflict kind of stemmed from, with the organized faith that you and I grew up in. It's right, like you need to have a sense of like you think about your present,
Right.
right? Like it's almost like a little wishful to be thinking so far in advance when, right, like you're 17 or 18 years old, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like it
dude.
might it works for some people, but like I don't think it works for like it doesn't subscribe to the majority of society, which is, I mean, and if it works for some people, that's great. Like, there's things that work for people, and if it works for you, great. But I don't think it worked for me personally. And kind of similar to you, right? Like you, um, you want something I wanted something that was like a little bit more tangible and things that I could apply to my life and my day to day. Um, and that's kind of, my, current status with, religion in its form.
Yeah, yeah. And and one thing that I respect you for is your ability to vocalize that, right? And that's tough in and of itself to say, hey man, I'm feeling different about this, right? I associate with it, but I'm feeling a little bit something's off kilter, right? And that in and of itself, I think is very I find it very brave to say, right? Because it's not promoted, it's not propagated in the way we've grown up, and it's not just us, it's other like I would say religions similar in all cultures that sometimes speaking up is tough. And what I find about that too is like when you do speak up, if you get somewhat of a blanketed answer, that isn't an answer in and of itself, right? If I speak up and say I don't get this, maybe I don't resonate with that, right? A religion, in my opinion, shouldn't be black and white because human beings aren't black and white. I mean, there are black and white
Absolutely.
human beings, right? But it's we live in gray areas, right? We live in between settings and we live in between phrases and thoughts and beliefs, right? Everyone is different. And so if a religion can't cater to an individual, then I find a fallacy with that because we're not robotic, right? You can't just slap on something to us. We all need catered pathways. And so when I don't want to, like you said, we don't want to go down like a path where we're naming people here, but right, there was times during like when I was coming up and like you back in there, right? I would say like, dude, all right, bro, like I'm in college, right? Maybe we should start talking to kids about things that they're gonna encounter in college, right? Drugs, alcohol, sex, like all these types of things.
Yeah,
These are
absolutely.
topics that at us as older dudes should be telling younger dudes, and that way
Yeah,
they don't make the same mistakes and also they have knowledge because like we don't talk to our parents about this stuff really, at least I didn't,
yeah,
right? So having a peer to speak to about, but like I would bring that up and be like, yo, should we talk about this at one point? It's like, dude, get the fuck out of here, bro. Like, lose your responsibility, you're not doing this. And to me that was another kind of like let down moment where I was like, dude, I am trying to be a good person, right? That's where my thought is at. And if I can't be a good person in a setting, then I have to almost remove myself from it, right? Because otherwise, I'm doing something that's not aligned to me. What's going to happen after? I'm gonna start lying. I'm gonna start being somebody else I'm not. I'm gonna start doing things in corners that I don't need to do, right? So that was like the conflict I was dealing with. That nutshell right there, right? That one example was like, I'm trying to be a good dude. I feel like I'm a good dude, but like my culture, my religion is telling me that I'm not a good dude. But maybe I'm just a different good dude than like the stereotypical good dude. You know what I mean?
no, I completely agree. I remember, I had the same like kind of conversations that you had in like a setting like that. I think my like think it's like I was in, oh, no, I'm sorry, I was at youth camp.
Okay.
And, at youth camp, you're like 16 years old. So like those conversations do come up. Like, how do you date? Like, what should you look for in a partner?
Yeah.
Like, that's a very important conversation to have, right? Because when you go to
100%.
college and when you become a young adult and adult, the expectation is that you do you proceed, right? You date, you get married, you have kids. Like,
Yep.
that's like the norm for our culture. But you got to figure out like what kind of qualities should you look for. And then I remember one of the responses was like, "Don't do that. Let your parents do it for you." And I was like, "What the?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah. 100%.
And I was like, "That's crazy, right? This isn't India in the 70s."
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But like, so my question for you then is your I don't want to use the word aversion because it has a strong connotation to it, but is your misalignment with the religion and the kind of faith we grew up in, is it as a result of our upbringing? Like, is it nature versus nurture? Is what I'm trying to get at. Do you think for you particularly?
Yeah, dude, and I think like, everyone's perspective and everyone's upbringing is their own, right? So I could, even though we grew up very lock and step, there's probably things behind closed doors that I don't
Yeah,
know,
yeah, absolutely.
right? And
Everyone's
there
got
and
that.
right, right. So for me, the religious component, right? I generally like the Gita. I generally do like it, right? I think it has a lot of good things in there. I think it's a good read for anybody, really. But then the cultural component was also kind of what flew me off the rails, dude. So like I thought there was too much competition with the people that I was supposed to be good friends with, right? There was
Yeah,
always like, who is the most religious boy, right? Who wins the speech competitions? Who knows the most, like, who can quote scripture the highest? Who got the fucking
yeah.
highest ACT score? Who like is doing
Who's
the
going to med
most?
school?
Who's going to med school? And I'm just sitting there like, dude, it's not it's not those people's fault. It's not let's say we're talking about you, right?
Yeah,
It's not Shail's fault that you didn't do anything to me, dude. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like
no,
you were just doing you and I was doing me. But it was other people, right? It was other people making that a thing. And I felt like, dude, I can't be around people that I'm competing with all the time, you know? I can't be living the picture of what some auntie thinks I should be living so my parents are happy so they can tell this auntie that Umber's living well, right?
yeah,
And because to me, what that signifies is unconditional love is not present, right? It cannot be nurtured in that community because
yeah,
if I don't fulfill a rubric, if I don't check it off, then I'm not good. But like, as you have met people, right? Like I have nieces and nephews. I have my best friends have kids. I have people in my life, my peers who I've met over the past 15, 20 years that I feel as if I love unconditionally. My wife,
yeah,
like I feel that like I don't have a lot of expectations for these people. I just love them because they are who they are. I love them for who they blossom into and they continue to blossom into, right? And if they ask me for advice, I'll give it to them. But I don't have I try to remove any sort of competition. I try to remove any sort of expectational tie to that person because it opens me up to really love them. And I just felt like I had that to give growing up, but I wasn't allowed to give it.
yeah,
And so to me, that was thwarting a part of myself, right? And so, like, when you think about that, like, if you switch the term, if you take an adjacent term, you're depressing somebody, right? You're pushing them
mhm,
down and you're pushing them against the grain. And so that's what I felt. I felt depressed. I felt like a shell of myself. I felt like I couldn't speak my thoughts, right? And over time, that led me to do things that were, I would overindulge in drinking. I would overindulge in, if I met a girl, I would latch onto her super hard because I was like,
yeah,
she's my escape. And
yeah,
so I was living incorrectly, I felt, right? So then, 10 years ago or so, I said, I cleaned the slate. I said, you know what? I'm wiping it all clean and I'm starting all over. And
yeah,
so I'm starting to build what I think is going to be a good life, right? And so it's no harm done, no regrets, right? Like some people you lose touch with. There are some good people in the mix, right? Probably including yourself. There's some good people out there, right? But
yeah, absolutely.
I gotta clean the slate. I gotta move forward, and I'll reconnect and reach out as I feel comfortable and I'm recovered. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's like it's a very noble thing to do because, um, like you said, right? Like I think speaking out is inherently such a difficult thing to do. because of fear of, it's, I hate to use the word like repercussion, but it's almost like that, right? There's like such a stigma, or like, oh, like Amar's different or Shail's different. Like, Anisate vad nakaris.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly, exactly.
right? Like you get that. And
Yeah,
it's unfortunate. Um, but like I think at the end of the day, you got to do what's like we're adults now. Like you got to do what's best for you. You're married, shit. Like you got to
yeah,
do what's best for you. Like when you get married, I think, you know, you're not answerable to your family anymore. You're answerable to your wife. Like that's like number one on the pecking order, right?
absolutely.
Because that's who you're like, right? Like then people come after, like your wife and your kids, and then it's like your parents and your friends and your family, and the order kind of descends thereafter. Um, and so you got to do what's best for yourself and what's best for your family, like you and your wife, right? Like that's your family now.
And
Uh,
that's yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
no, I finished my thought. You're good.
No, no. What I was saying off of that is that taking that a step further is like it's your responsibility, in my opinion, to almost protect it, right?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
when you find your peace, I personally feel like you protect it at all costs, right? And that sounds very like, noble and fucking like, Ram Lakshman type shit, right? But what it is sometimes it's the people closest to you that you have to protect against, right? There's not some foreign entity coming to like wage war on me. It's not like that, right? I'm not gonna have to beat some guy up in an alley. I've never had to do that, right? To
Yeah.
protect my wife's honor. It's the people closest to me, right? Where they break my boundaries and I say, dude, you know what? I'm gonna be a grown up here and I'm gonna protect my space, right? And let's say you did that to me. Let's say like I was like in a kind way breaking your boundaries. I was like, yo, Shail, let's do this, let's do that. And then you're like, dude, I actually don't want to do that. I'd be
Yeah.
like, no, note taken. Like that's not something he wants to engage me on. Absolutely. I'm mature enough to know that, right? I'm
Yeah.
mature enough to notice that. Like when you say no to me, I'll take the no, right?
Yeah.
And so there's times where people don't hear that. Like they don't understand the word no from you, right? Because you've for me personally, I've broken boundaries so many times. Whereas like when I finally do say something like, "Oh, dude, this guy, what? He's a bad guy, He's like he's like trying to be aggressive." And it's like, "No, I'm just trying to set up my boundaries." And I feel like you can't hear me, so I'm being a little bit more direct about it. And that's it. That's it. It's like nothing major. And like, to answer your question again, just about the whole situation with like religion and spirituality, I just need to get in situations where my whole sphere of influence was relatively positive, where
Yeah.
everyone who is speaking to me, all the thoughts I'm hearing, all the books I'm reading, everyone I'm interacting with is relatively positive, and that
Only
is to me,
positive.
you know how it goes, you know how it is. So that's where I'm at with it. It's something like I live and breathe every single day, man. And don't get me wrong, it's not toxic positivity. I'm not just sitting here saying like reading a jar of quotes every morning. It's like work every day. It's work to deal with my existential thoughts, to deal with loneliness, to deal with strife, and like come out with an about face on it. You know what I mean? That's really all it comes down to.
Yeah. And dude, I respect that. I respect that for you. I think it's like a very honorable way to protect, like you said, protect your peace, right? Dude, if it works for you, if it works,
Yeah.
like ain't nobody gonna take that away from you. Like it clearly allows you to live the life you want to live in the most fulfilled manner in which you want to live it in. So dude, kudos to you, man.
No, I appreciate you, dude. I appreciate you, man. I mean, I know we're coming up on time here, and I just like to ask you one last question. And I do hope one day we can get together and just like either get dinner, and then we can maybe even do like an in-person podcast. I think it'd be really fun to sit down and chop
Yeah,
it
for
one
sure.
day. But this is a question I like to ask people as we wrap up. Are you happy?
I think I'm content.
Okay. And
I
what does
think
that entail for you?
for me personally, I think like life could always be worse, right? And I think for me, happiness is something that I should constantly chase, right? Because
Hmm.
the pursuit of quite literally the pursuit of happiness. Um, because I think to achieve true happiness for me as a person, I think there's always things I need to fulfill in my life. And so, but if I fulfill them, then what? I'm always like, afraid of the what if. You do everything you want to do, then what?
Yeah.
Right? And so for me, I say I'm content because I have a great job, I have a great group of friends, I have like a nice apartment, I'm
Yep.
economic means, I have good relationships with my friends, my family. Me and Snay are tight.
Hell yeah.
Um, and so all these things, combined, they gives me a sense of enjoyment and contentment. But there are things that, like right, like I want to get jacked. I could always use some more money. I, want that promotion at work. I want to travel to X money, countries and see the world. I think the sum of these things would, you know, enable me to be happy. But then, if I fulfill all of those things, then what? Right? So I'm constantly going and trying to do those things and see more and do more for myself. So I don't think I'll ever be truly happy, but I think that's okay because I'll constantly pursue those things. And hopefully one day I'll knock everything on my bucket list and then I'll be happy, but then, I'll be 80 and I think that's okay.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I appreciate the way you put that, right? I think you lived it and you spoke it when you said, I'm content, and then your explanation like was really geared towards contentment. And I think
Yeah.
that's perfect, right? When going back to like the Buddhism we were talking about, right? Like being too happy or too sad is long term is unattainable, right? You want to stay in that middle. And if you're there, that's the best frequency to be on, be on that content frequency. And for me, like, the one next step question I always ask after that, and we don't have to answer it now, is when you think about happiness, right? So when you think about happiness, what are the variables that are in place? Is it that you're jacked? Is it that you have more money? Is it that you have more stamps on your passport, right? And maybe that's just some food for thought, right? And one thing that has helped me in my life is articulate what makes me happy, right? And so that is the only piece of advice I would ever give anybody in life, and I would by no means ever give you advice, but those I would just encourage you to continuously hone in on what makes you happy and go get that. And if it doesn't work, go get something else. You know what I mean? It's I think you're chasing, you're pursuing, you're curious, you seem young and happy and spry. And I'm like, dude, those are all the qualities that I think are going to get you to a life of fulfillment, my dude.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you. That's good advice.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.